Look at you.
I got it.
Thanks, John.
I'm a trained professional.
Oh, you.
Merrill will show up whenever he does. Go ahead and get the Education Committee meeting started for October 3rd. And I'll go ahead and have the invocation. Let's pray. Lord, we are so grateful that we have the opportunity to deliberate and do the things that we can in a free society. To be able to do what we can to encourage those that live in this area to serve you, to be the citizens that they are called upon to be those examples that they should be to one another. Lord, help us as we deliberate tonight. Help us make decisions that will be wise, and also to give this county the opportunity to move forward in everything that it does. Be with us. Keep us from those things that would detract from us and tempt us. We ask this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay. The approval of the agenda first. There is one thing that I would like to look at. Let's see what I'm doing now. Oh yeah, there it is. Item D, down there under new businesses. I was wanting to look at possibly referring that back to the school board. There are some things in that whenever I was looking through all of this, that there were a lot of school books there. And the school books, I've talked with Andy Lacey, who made an impassioned plea at the last school board meeting to be able to look at school books for appropriate content and that kind of thing. There's a whole lot of school books or library books in there. And so I would like to, before we approve the agenda, I'd like to remove that one item and refer it back to school board so that it can be looked at before it is sent to us for the financial side of it.
Mr. Chairman,
So I'm
if I-
asking for,
I've just a question, if I may. Are these books that's already been purchased?
there, it's a year-end encumbrance, it's bringing it forward, yes.
From last year?
Yeah. So we're looking at whether or not this is something that needs to be continued. Any other discussion?
I guess I'm confused of, and I'm not for or against, I'm just trying to make an educated decision here. What would we be accomplishing by sending it back if it's an encumbrance from last year?
Well, to give the opportunity for them to check these books out, for one thing, because I know two of the school board members I talked to didn't even know that they were voting on this. It was approved, as it says in here, in the memo, but there again, they didn't know that these books were in there.
Did they request that we send it back?
Yes.
I motion that we send it back.
Second.
Have a motion made by Terry Boyd and Chrissy Miller, seconded. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those against?
I want to stay, Mr. Chairman, because I'm not sure what we're voting on.
Was that motion to approve the agenda without the item?
Without item D.
Without item D to be referred back to the school board?
Now, one other thing that I want to say about that if the school board wants to strip out all those library books and send, it's an omnibus request. So if you want to send all the other things back, we can hold a little quick meeting, approve that, and get it over with.
I think, Mr. Brown, I want to interrupt your meeting, but I think encumbrances have already been purchased. They're just carried
Right.
over because of supply
Yeah,
chain.
yeah, I know, and that's what we're trying to figure out, you know, give them an opportunity to look at these books
Right,
first.
but I think we've already encumbered that expense.
Yeah.
So I think there's some process coming. All the stuff on that list has already been purchased, but I can check, we can check that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm giving those school board members an opportunity to do.
Yes, sir.
It's probably more of a question for finance, but it might come down to whether or not the school board decides to actually use the books they've already purchased. But it sounds like have already gotten an invoice that just needs to be paid for service already, and products already paid for and received. Whether or not they use that might be a question for the school board. I don't know if that's gonna cause an issue on their end.
We can check and see, we can get one.
But like I say, just strip that out, send it back to us, and we'll go ahead and
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
for
sir.
future reference, at least in the committees I've always operated as chairman of over the years, the agenda was not accepted or voted upon, and you can present any agenda to the committee that you want. Now, someone could make a motion to add it to it, but the agenda you lay out to the committee could have had that.
Well, that's the only thing that I wanted to take out of the agenda right there, and everything else we'll go ahead and take care of. So we have, any other questions, Commissioner Rogers?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay. So, do we have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay. Commissioner Rogers, and then,
I believe that was what we voted on previously, where
well, we voted to refer back item D.
we did that under approval of the agenda. So my understanding was we were voting to approve the agenda, just striking that item to be referred to.
Okay, well, then we're good. We'll go ahead and move ahead. Approval of the minutes from August 1st. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved. Billing to the form though, correct?
Yes.
Correct. So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay. So we have, I know one person to speak as far as the public's concerned. Ms. Daniels? Go ahead. Anybody else wants to speak?
I don't have anything new that y'all are not aware of.
Okay.
All right, do you have to say my name and address?
Yes.
Okay, so Joanna Daniels, 152 North Shadow Haven Way, Hendersonville, Tennessee, just 005. Okay, so a few things here. There is, yes, you guys, lots and lots of budget here. And one of the things that I'm a little concerned about is the safe schools thing that we're putting money towards. And a lot of it, I know some of it's federal funding, and what really worries me is that it is anti-bullying, safe climate, safe school climate, and a lot of social workers and a lot of mental health people. And so I'm a little concerned. One, I'd like to get more information on are the social workers, where are they contracted from, a little bit more from where these are from, these corporations, exactly. And then also, just so that you know, I don't know if you know what a safe climate survey is, but I got some samples here, and and some of it was like, I feel safe in the bathrooms at school, I feel safe in the cafeteria, which is all good and all, but there was other ones like, thinking about your friends in classrooms, which of the following do students at your school need help with most this year? Social and emotional skills, mental health, physical health, learning support, support with jobs, money, and or basic needs. I mean, how are kids gonna know this stuff? And, you know, some of the stuff that I'm looking at here, like, is your school LGBTQ safe? Is your, my teachers tell me not to do something when I have a good reason. Like, some of these things, I'm just like going, what's the school climate here? And what are we putting money towards? And then, I have no idea. This one says it's, because I wasn't sure what you guys were talking about tonight because I couldn't get off of the thing. So are you talking about anything that that you're gonna be looking at on 1014, or is this all 919 stuff?
There is some safe school stuff in here.
Okay,
I think
okay, because the one that I was looking at, yeah, Safe Schools was 141, 7SS. It's a budget amendment 3 and 4. And it's additional funds for $14,550 and a credit of $471. So I was looking at that and just looking at that and all of the social worker, you know, information on that. So I wasn't sure if you guys are going to be talking about that today. And there's other contracted services for $180,000 on that. Guidance personnel, $127,000. Other salaries and wages for $22,000. I'm just a little concerned about the money going towards things like that. And then also, I did look up this because I was told by a few people, and I watched the Del Phillips school board meeting where he was saying that you know, commissioners have no say-so and stuff like that. And I just hope that you guys know that Tennessee Code annotated section 492301B1WII gives you guys any change in the expenditure of money as provided for by the budget shall first be ratified by the school board and the appropriate local legislative body. So you guys do have power to go through all these amendments and say no to them. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else?
It's a general question. So the special meeting that was called earlier in the month, when is that video?
Last month.
Last month, the special call meeting. When is that video gonna be?
It'll be in this commission.
Well, funny you should ask
The
that.
video didn't save.
My technical skills failed on
Oh.
that video.
We had it recording,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I clicked start, someone else clicked stop, somewhere along the way, it did not get saved.
It won't save you if you don't start it. I've learned that, and that's why the mayor is now protector of the out.
Carol, that happened to me too once.
Special skill set that I have, I'm sorry.
Failed once, out. I'm done. See ya. I tried. So, my apologies.
I think
I lost
we
my
got-
privileges too.
I think we got about 6 seconds. That was it.
I wasn't able to make that meeting. I was hoping to watch the video and.
It was a
waiting.
very good meeting.
Ms. Brown did a great job.
Again.
Greatest meeting ever.
Well, it was cool.
Okay. So, I have nothing as far as a report except what I've done. And Mayor, you have anything? Or
No report, sir.
Mr. Langford, you want to speak on?
No, sir, I think we'll get here. Any questions?
Okay. Okay. As far as old business, we have conducted that, and we'll go ahead and move on to a new business. Again, I would like to, I know this may take a little bit, but I think we can go a little quicker, being that we have a lot more insight as to what a lot of these, since Ms. Brown, not this Ms. Brown, but the other Ms. Brown, educated us a little bit on more of the codes that we have. First thing that we have here, and we'll just go down through each one of these. The first one, budget amendment 12, and people services. Does anybody have any problems with this one right here? Just a federal funding and being transferred. Any discussion? discussion? Okay. Next one is budget amendment number 3.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Go ahead.
is this not part of what we did last month when we approved? Well, yeah.
Well, I was wondering that myself too. Portland High School thing, I thought we'd already taken care of.
I know we had one storm that came through, and I believe we did 71,000 on it as well.
Yeah. But I did not know if this was something different or what, but I thought we'd already taken care of Portland High School.
And unfortunately, I don't have my stuff with me.
I've got it right here.
Number 3, 141.
Is that not safe schools?
Well, here, I've got budget amendment 12 here, which we already okayed. And then the next one here, that's a school bus. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I think those are last months, or our last meeting.
That's what I was thinking. We've already done Portland, and it's somehow made it back into this
Yeah,
package.
that's what we're concerned about, is Portland got back in here somehow. Just trying to find it here.
Do they only have one damage, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I may ask a question?
Sure.
Did they have one damage at Portland, or was it 2?
There was one.
Okay.
That was the insurance refund.
Right, for the backstop or something at a
Yeah.
softball, baseball field or something. I think we did that last month, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did too.
I can't operate the owl, so don't go by my recollection.
Okay, so we'll
Was
go
this the
ahead
one
and.
with the baseball field?
Yeah, baseball
It's
field.
gotta take it,
So
it's gotta take it.
repaired and all, so.
Might get you therapy
Took
over
care of
this.
this. I remember it was pulling the funds over from the settlement of the insurance so that they could continue the repair, 71,818. That's it. So that one, like I say, has already been taken care of too. This next one, pupil services, budget amendment 2. Well, we did this one too.
I think some of these have gotten replicated
Yeah, I
because
think they did too.
when we didn't make the initial passage, I think they just deferred them all to this month.
It's a lot more here, unless it's turned in a different direction. No, it's the same thing. So this one's been approved too, approved that one. And, so now we're down to Safe Schools grant. 3 and 4. Oh, there's the wind damage. That was budget amendment number 3
Correct.
last
Yes.
time, last meeting. So, this one was the one where we. Remember this one too, 'cause we talked about it. 'Cause this was for the behavioral specialist and all.
I believe it's good as well, Mr. Chairman.
This is the new, this one, budget 3 and 4 is new. Because this one, you did talk about safe schools last one, that was a totally different one. This one is actually a new one that was presented on the 20th.
These are the carryover funds.
From last year.
And appropriation of additional funding.
Okay.
So this is a new one.
So I remember seeing that, that's where we got the explanation. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was the very first one, budget amendment 2. That was the one that had the personnel in it, very first one. So this is additional to that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I guess, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
the question would be, what is this additional 14,550? Is that already in the budget, or is this, obviously it says additional funding, where does that come from?
This is appropriated carryover. This is being pulled. 7SS. What is 7SS code?
That's the program code that means Safe Schools, the Safe Schools grant.
Okay.
And those are funds that are appropriated by the state. That additional 14,000 is for the actual, we were given a provisional allocation, and so this is to make it the actual allocation. So what you.
So you may get it or may you not, and now you've got it.
Well, they say, here's what you're definitely gonna get, and then we'll tell you exactly what you get. And so we got an extra $14,000 from
So like in-
originally budgeted.
In early April, mid-April, they'll tell you what they think you're gonna get, so you can
Right.
go ahead and budget, and then they come back in August and say, here's what you actually get.
And of course, all that's dependent, if I can, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I'm just
Go ahead.
running off down here.
Swear, go ahead.
And that's all dependent upon the confines or the legalities of the grant through the state, correct?
Any other discussion on this one here? This is the first new one that we've come across. So budget amendment 3 and 4, which is addendum to the other one that we've already passed here last meeting. $85,000 for an in-service.
Those in-services, I'm trying to see which one you're referring
I
to.
mean, that's just kind of a round number there. It's,
Yeah, I mean, it's an estimate, obviously, but we send, every SRO goes to a week-long certification
so
training.
this is for SRO training.
Some of this, yes. I don't know which line specifically you're referring to.
Well, it's right there in the middle, in-service.
Does it say-
Staff development, $85,000 right there in the middle.
Hold on, let me pull up the right page.
Well, the budget 3 and 4, amendment 3 and 4.
Yes, that is for, that's for training around our SROs, as well as our threat assessment and sort of behavioral intervention kind of things around students that are creating a safety issue in school.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, then I have another question, I guess, for not to get down a rabbit trail, but this 85,000 is for, you're saying that's for SRO training?
Yes, every year the SROs attend a post-certified or a certification conference, and the school district funds that.
In Gatlinburg, is that correct? Very well, Mr. Chairman, I've learned something new tonight. That's great. I thought that was funded by our,
You can take that back to your committee.
I thought that was funded by our sheriff's department, so that's good enough. Thank you. That's by state grant.
Anybody have any other questions about this? Matt?
What does Safe Schools do? Like, what are the metrics? How does it, what's the goal of it?
Well, there's legislation involved in several layers of it, but it's about creating physical safety, mental and emotional safety within the building, which means that students that are making threats to others or creating a safety issue in the building would be addressed by that as well. But it's also all of our physical safety items such as camera systems and door locks and visitor management, those kinds of things. So it's all the layers of school safety.
Okay, so there's the physical safety and the mental, what would be, I guess I've got two questions, and I apologize here, because I'm not sitting over there, but, metrics that shows that this program materially reduces incidents or harm in a school versus, you know, if you don't have it? And two, what is the realm of what would define a mental safety event?
Okay, so the first one, school safety is primarily in the prevention area, and so there's not a metric for what doesn't happen, and so we're primarily working to prevent and create that safe, it's a mitigation so that we don't have dangerous instances.
Well, you could though, right? I mean, you could have a set of schools on one hand as a control group that don't have these programs versus yours, see, like per population, per capita. I mean, it's a federal program, right? So I would
It is
assume-
not, it's
Oh,
a
it's
state
not?
program.
Oh, okay. So there's no metrics?
No, there are metrics. We measure how much folks refer to the program for, like you were asking about a safety issue. A student that's threatening harm to themselves or to others is a safety issue for the entire building. And so students that are referred to our support systems for those kinds of things, that metric is tracked. We also have all of the different layers of what we're doing. Sorry, I don't mean to direct away from the table, but our visitor management system, we have data on all of the times that a visitor who is not supposed to be in the building is denied access to the building. We do an assessment every year of all of the physical safety aspects of our building, and so we can look at what buildings are in need of either a procedural change around their visitor management or the way that they handle emergency response, or if they're in need of a physical change, meaning like a door doesn't work properly, or we need a fencing in a particular area. And so the assessment that we do of the buildings is really the metric that we're working on, just to improve based on school safety standards that are established by many national
And I
organizations.
guess one more question, and I'll shut up, I promise. Where's that data go? Where's it get reported to?
I report it to the state
To
annually.
the state? Okay, so it doesn't, just goes to the state.
Well, it's available.
Does it go to Rand Corporation or anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
And there's no PII, personal identifying information?
No,
of the
absolutely
students?
not. No.
Okay.
It says Safe Schools is healthy student office focuses on developing positive school climate and culture. You're promoting prevention activities to lessen bullying, substance abuse, and violence. Priorities reduce risk factors for young people and promote an increase in protective factors. Provides professional development and security-related activities. So, and school resource officer trainings and violence prevention. So, correct me if I'm wrong though, but the state gets the money from the federal government because the federal government has a grant for safe schools.
I'm not aware, honestly. It's a formula grant that comes from the state, and we have to meet state criteria, and the SAVE Act is the state law that dictates what procedures and things we have to have in place. So I honestly don't know where the state gets the funding. I apologize.
I guess I got one more question. Sorry. What's the breadth of the definition of bullying? So like, if there's a disagreement in ideology, between two students, would that be considered bullying?
We have an extensive definition on bullying and training for our staff, but that's not really a part of what I'm here to speak about. I think it would take much more of the committee's time for me to go into how we manage bullying in the schools and our bullying prevention. It's not relative to this.
I could answer as a former administrator, not as the state schools representative, but usually for bullying, if you're an administrator, it's an ongoing thing. It would not be two kids being obnoxious to each other in the hallway. It would be where there's one kid, there's a power differential, and the kid's constantly doing something to harass. We use a very tight definition of what bullying is.
All right, I said I'd be quiet. I'll be quiet now. Sorry about that.
Commissioner Lee?
So, question, I get the physical piece as far as the building security, and I like that. But as far as the emotional support, emotional health of the kids, I visited all the schools in my district, talked to the principals, the front educators. And that was the biggest thing that I had to take away from was the mental health of the kids and the need there. And that our teachers are not equipped to handle the problems that kids are bringing with them to school. The school, they don't originate at school. I personally believe they originate at home. That's a whole other conversation we had on the topic. How is a safe school as far as the emotional health? How does that differentiate, or how is it different from a traditional guidance counselor, or is it?
Sure. So the training that you were asking about, the in-service, that is to give teachers a more detailed understanding of students that are in crisis, students that are experiencing trauma, and how you interact with them and the difference that that can make in the outcome. Like a student that's just feeling anxious and having a conflict in the classroom, you can change the trajectory of that interaction just by your physical stance and how you approach the child. And so that's what that piece is about when students are starting to have a crisis, whether that's a threat of harm to themselves or others, then the teacher's interaction can mitigate that outcome. And then the second part you asked about was, I missed it.
Guidance counselor.
Oh, guidance, how that's different.
Is it
Okay,
different or-
yes. So honestly, our school counselors would absolutely love to be able to help students in this way. But the needs of students are much greater in acuity and in number. And so the mental health supports that we have in place are people with further training that would be more specialized in those kinds of situations. Which is not a part of this funding, so.
No, I mean, I know in Metro, we had a lot more than just the guidance counselors at our schools because we had a lot more problems. But going back to that, what's the staffing like as far as these
So,
personnel are concerned?
the staffing, this year we have 8 in the Safe Schools Department. We have 8 social workers that are considered crisis social workers. They're not funded by this funding, but they specialize in when students are in crisis. And that is either physically being there to help assess the student and handle the crisis, or it might be advising because there's only 8 and there's almost 50 schools. And so they might advise who is in the building, the school counselor or the administrator.
Are these itinerant?
Yes.
One other question, and this is maybe more for Mr. Langford. The guidance counselors, what's the ratio? Is it 1 per school? Is it per 100 students? Or, what's the breakdown of guidance counselors?
I think it's around every, we try to have one, I think, for around every 450 students. So every school has at least, well, we have some small ones that split, but generally there's a counselor present at every building. And so like a Gallatin High School has 4 or 5, and then, North Sumner, North Sumner splits. But we try to increase. I mean, honestly, we need more counselors than we have spaces for right now because as you mentioned, student needs are off the charts right now in terms of anxiety and social and emotional duress.
So I have a couple of questions for you. So how do you communicate to the parents? It seems like there's different levels of crisis that the students may encounter. So do you have different forms that you send home depending on the different levels of crisis? And what about children around me? Let's say I'm having a crisis, maybe I'm cutting myself. So do you send home a letter to my friend's parents?
So, 2 things. If you yourself are having a crisis, we communicate directly with your parent. That would not be a
So
form.
you're on the phone?
Yes, we would communicate directly with
Is
the
that a
parent.
different level? I mean, I'm sure they can have a crisis where they're just crying because somebody said,
Right.
here's a mess.
A
You're not
crisis
gonna-
of like harm and actual danger.
So you have levels?
Yes, of course, yes. And so we have something that's like a crisis activation form, whereas if we feel like we need to either call EMS or youth villages, a mobile crisis type situation where there's active danger, or if we have to involve law enforcement, such as with a threat of harm to others, then we have forms that we document that internally for ourselves. But there's also a form that we give to the parent that says, we are making you aware that we have this concern about your child. And that's like, that would be for if a child threats harm to themselves and the parent comes and says, I'll take care of it, we have a counselor, I'll take her to the counselor. Well, we say, well, we want to make sure that you know that we think this is serious, because we cannot require a parent to get medical help or mental health assistance for their child. So we ask them, we document that by saying, we've alerted you to this concern, and we hope that you will handle that appropriately. So that's for the child themselves. If there is an incident in a classroom or somewhere where other children are exposed to a dangerous situation, then we do communicate that with the children that are around them, or with the parents of the kids, yes. As much as we are able. Obviously, I can't tell another child's family what happened with you know, like a specific kind of thing, but.
So, another question, with all 90, is the Safe Schools in all 95 of our counties, or are we just?
I believe so, yes. That's why it's a formula grant from the state. They say, you've got this many schools, this many kids, here's how much money you get.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
She has I mean, I guess for me, it's, at what point are we then putting the responsibility on the school for a child that, in my opinion, a parent should be taking on that responsibility? And of course, hearing this concerns me because of my children that are in elementary school and what they could potentially be getting exposed to. And then also just, I mean, I'm sure you all are aware of how I feel about this, but if we're introducing curriculum to them at such a young age and exposing them to extreme emotional settings, then I'm sure that has to somehow impact how some of these kids are thinking in terms of how to react to certain situations as well. So I think that for me, it just seems like we're putting far too much pressure on the school system and the teachers to take care of problem children, as opposed to removing them from the situation, from the children that don't have those issues. Sorry, that's just I mean, if I, you know, it's to think that they would, that we're in Sumner County, we have this as an issue is just mind-boggling.
Yeah. I know that there have been a lot of things that have transpired as far as families and schools have developed. And again, a lot of it's not in a positive direction, that's for sure. But hopefully with this, we may get a positive outlook. We'll see what happens down the road, I guess. I am concerned about the situation of, as what Commissioner Schoaf had brought out about ideological concerns between two students, and then that one being shut down just because there's an expression of ideas there. So that's my biggest concern right there. We've got budget 3 and 4. Go ahead and make a motion.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, where are we?
3 and 4, safe schools.
So moved to approve.
Okay. Do I have a second? No second? Okay. I guess that one will die. Okay, moving on to 143. Appropriation carryover. Have homeless funds being done. So this one's federal. And the next one is info only. So it's-
On the back. It's on the back.
Does he wanna wait until next one?
I don't know.
It still says 143.
143, okay,
This
yeah,
is
that's
what
Commission for Walmley. Next one, 108 is Commissioner for Walmley. Move on. And 106 is County Commission for Walmley. And 143, same thing. Divided up differently in the email. And 190 and 196, same thing.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. Where are you?
We're trying to find out where we have, county commission approval, and we're going through this quite. I'm down to 129, budget amendment to 129, we still have just, info only. And just continuing on till we'll find some, there was a different arrangement, whenever this was sent out. They were segregated as to what was info only and.
5 and 6. BA number 5 and 6.
Do I?
BA number 5 and 6, that's the next one that you guys need to approve. You guys only have like 30 of them.
Well, we're running through here and see where it is.
Info only.
Oh,
I think that changed after the last one.
yeah, I think that's- Might be back on track as far as time.
Yeah.
Supposed to talk about it. I guess that's it. That's it. That's it. So I'm the only ones in this package. The last thing that was on here, we've already talked about, that was pulled. And that was the encumbrances, year-end encumbrances, we pulled and informed them, so. I guess that's got everything taken care of.
Mr. Chairman, what about item E?
I mean, is that the last thing on there? Yep, there it is, okay. It's on the back side, okay. Yeah, okay, this is a, for copier for the nursing program, nursing department. Last 2 pages, 3 pages.
I move to approve the lease for the new copier.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
No.
Ayes carried. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is it normal for the director of schools to always be absent? Is that a normal thing? I mean, does he normally come to commission meetings? Is it just something recent? Is it because it is held? Does anybody enter that?
He would come sometimes.
Okay.
He wasn't at every education meeting. I think it was generally if the chairperson told him it was something specific, I think he'd make an effort to go, or if he couldn't be here, he would send a representative like he has, but he was not at every meeting.
Any other discussion?
A motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
So we're finished. Thank you.